When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, Invex. User, ALTPR. Posted, November 28, 1997.
Of all the things I've seen in my time on the job, what just happened takes the cake. I don't even know how I'm going to write it up officially. I'm afraid if I tell them the truth, my bosses will put me on leave, but then how else do I explain a suspect vanishing into thin air? And not just any suspect, our only lead as to the whereabouts of Gabriel Lopez. Baby Gabriel is 6 months old, taken from a crib in Boyle Heights just over 48 hours ago. At the start, all we could say for sure was that the kidnapping took place between midnight and 6 in the morning. We knew this because Dad works the night shift and checked in on him before heading out. Mom was the one who woke up at 6 and noticed he was gone. In Gabriel's place was a symbol she'd never seen before, 3 interlocking triangles drawn on the white bedding in charcoal. It's no secret that the department's got a race problem, and because the family is Mexican, some of the uniforms were only too happy to share their pet theories once we got on scene. The mother was tied up in witchcraft, or the dad was trafficking, and the kid got snatched as part of a deal gone wrong. It was all bullshit, of course. It didn't take a genius to see that. Not a single thing about that neat little 2-story house said crack or witches or anything along like it. You know how I knew? The smell. I've been to places where rot is hidden behind a wholesome facade. Split-level mansions in Malibu and Calabasas. No matter how airy a place, how clean, the smell is the same. Mildew and rancid coffee grounds. You can't trace it back to a single source. It permeates the air, a part of everyone and everything there. The Lopez house was nothing like that. It was a happy house. I knew right from the moment I walked in, before seeing the nursery neatly painted light blue with fluffy white clouds stenciled on the walls. Neighborhood canvassing was turning out to be a dead end. Then we got lucky. The McReadys, who lived 2 doors down from the Lopez family, have a 17-year-old daughter. That teenage daughter has a girlfriend who stayed over without Mom and Dad's knowledge and was sneaking out after sunrise when she spotted a white Ford Taurus parked on the street. I gotta give credit to that kid, Ashley, for coming to us on her own, because if she hadn't, we'd never have known she existed. She said the baby's life was more important than anyone's secrets, and all I'll say about that is I hope I'm raising my own daughter with those same values. Ashley said she'd done the window escape a few times before, always around that time, and never seen the Taurus, which is why it stuck out. She even got a plate number, though she couldn't describe the driver. She said it was the strangest thing, that she must have looked straight at him, and yet not a single thing about his appearance stuck in her memory. We managed to run down his plates in less than 24 hours, identifying him as Edgar Middleditch, a CPA from Encino. I rode with SWAT for the pickup, and while I couldn't tell you what I expected to find, it wasn't what we got. A mild-mannered, even nerdy 28-year-old in another well-kept suburban house behind a white picket fence. He greeted us politely at the door in a crisp white dress shirt and black slacks, a damp tea towel over his shoulder. Then he actually said, "I guess you're here about the baby." Just like that. We followed him inside, where he took the tea towel from over his shoulder and neatly hung it up on the stove before presenting his hands for cuffing. Outside, the house looked like any other on the block. Inside, it smelled exactly the way I thought it would. Mildew and rancid coffee grounds hanging over everything like an invisible fog. We searched the whole house, top to bottom, and found what looked like a makeshift baby changing station with wipes, talcum powder, and fresh cloth diapers. But no baby. The whole ride into the station, you'd think we were taking him out for lunch and not to a holding cell. He was smiling, talking about the weather, commenting on the quality of restaurants we drove past. I've never seen anything like it. Back at the station, he waived his right to counsel, and things didn't get any less strange once we started interrogating him. When we asked him where the kid was, he didn't hesitate for a second to tell us that he was with Mother Hazel. Who was Mother Hazel? The question made his eyes go wide the way my daughters do when the Backstreet Boys come on MTV. It's a look that's half love, half blind worship, and completely unnerving. I like to think of myself as a loving person who would give just about anything for the people I care about, and there's not a thing in the world that has ever made me go gaga like that. It took him a minute to answer, like he had so many thoughts on the subject he had to collect them all individually before speaking. Mother Hazel, he said, was a sweet breath of truth in a world gone rancid with lies. I knew right then this was cult shit. Anyone who talks like that has a wizard robe stashed away somewhere and likes to think about what other people look like without their skin. "And where is Mother Hazel?" I asked. "Where is your fresh breath of air hiding?" Little Prick laughed as if he'd heard the best joke of the night at the Friars Club. "She's coming for me. Can't you feel her?" His eyes lazily swept the room. "All I can feel is myself losing patience," I told him. "Why does she want the baby?" Middleditch fixed me with a look of reproach. "The baby has a name, Detective. He's Gabriel Lopez, and he's very important to us. The future our mother is building is a great machine which must be oiled with the blood of innocence. Gabriel Lopez will be our first." Nausea bloomed in my stomach. "You're gonna kill the kid." It wasn't a question. He looked at me like a teacher coaching his slowest student to an obvious conclusion. "Yes, of course. Why else would someone steal a baby, Detective? It's not like they're great company. No. Baby Gabriel will help us pave our path to tomorrow. It's not nice, but progress rarely is. Big magic requires big sacrifice." I couldn't believe how nonchalant he was about it. He had to know that this amounted to a confession. He wasn't going home for a long time. Hell, depending on what state we got Gabriel Lopez back in, he might not be going home at all. "Is that what all this is about? Your Mother Hazel is some kind of witch and you want the kid for some black magic ritual?" Patronizing smile, the Overhead lights and the room flickered. Black magic. That's adorable. Detective, the magical world is so much more than black and white. It's a rainbow of possibility, a natural force which can be bent to any number of aims by a practitioner who has the necessary knowledge and fortitude. Mother Hazel has both. How else do you think we could wield the Invex? Is that the symbol you left behind on Gabriel's bed? It is. It connects Mother's children to one another and to her. It shields our work from outside eyes. The fact you're sitting here says to me it doesn't shield shit. He shrugged, throwing up his cuffed hands in a "what are you gonna do" kind of gesture. I'm not Mother Hazel, but I'm guessing whoever saw the car couldn't identify me specifically. He was right, of course, but there was no way I'd admit it to him. That's okay, Detective. You don't have to tell me. Using hexes to hide organic things is relatively simple. Inorganic matter is much harder. I'm comfortable enough in my abilities to say they're simply not there yet. A cold breeze blew across my neck, and I ran my hand across the goose flesh. Who the fuck puts air conditioning on in March, I thought. Middleditch gave me a full-on shit-eating grin as if he heard me. A little chilly. Don't worry, it won't last long. Magic pulls heat from the air as it works. The bigger the magic, the colder it gets. I hated to admit it, but that chill was deepening. Not wanting to give him the satisfaction, I tried to sneak a glance at the vents above us to make sure the colorful plastic streamers were blowing to indicate the AC was on. They were hanging limply against the steel grate. Middleditch stretched his cuffed hands above him and shimmied in his seat, sitting up straight just as the lights dimmed again, strobing briefly before righting themselves. Well, Detective, I thank you for your hospitality. Given the reputation of your organization, I had expected rougher treatment. It was cold enough now, the breath was steaming out of his mouth. There was a click, and a second later, the cuffs clattered down onto the steel table. I reached for my sidearm, momentarily forgetting I'd locked it up during booking. How'd you do that? Don't fucking move or I'll knock your teeth out. Do you understand me? Middleditch raised both hands in a conciliatory gesture. You're in no danger, Detective. In fact, I have a confession to make. I wasn't totally honest with you earlier. Invex doesn't just connect us to Mother Hazel. If any of the flock go missing, the hex allows her to call us home. Goodbye for now, Detective Slattery. I'm sure we'll meet again. With that, he tore open his white dress shirt, buttons pinging in all directions to reveal the chair he was sitting on, and behind it, the concrete wall of the interrogation room. It was as if his torso was no longer there. Before I had a chance to think about what I was seeing, the rest of him collapsed into that empty space, head lolling forward, legs drawn up, all of it soundlessly sucked inward until he was just gone. The chill went with him, warmth flooding back into the room. That was 3 hours ago. I have no idea where he went or how. All I know is that magic is real, and baby Gabriel is in more trouble than I ever thought possible. Actually, I know a third thing. No matter where he is, I'm going to find him, and I am going to bring him home.
Subject, the Blue House. User, Nat24. Published October 10, 1995.
Can a house just appear? Up to this point in my life, such a question had never occurred to me, but on my drive to work this morning, I was listening to Casey's CD, lightly tapping my fingers along to one of Shostakovich's waltzes when I first saw the blue house. There isn't anything unusual about the place, you understand. It's an offensive light blue color with a double-gabled roof and white gingerbread trim. It's cute as far as houses go, and it fits right in with the rest of the street, but I swear to God, it wasn't there before. What was there before? I asked myself that all day today at the office and was frankly shocked to realize I couldn't conjure a single memory. The house is the second in the south end of the block between the Stevensenses, who have lived there for generations, and the old Billings place, now home to a young paramedic who just moved to town last winter. Breckenridge is a small enough place that if you're paying even a little bit of attention, you can keep up on who's coming and going, but try as I might, I cannot remember that house ever existing, let alone who lived there. On my way home, I drove past the blue house again, slowing down and giving it a long look through the passenger side window. On second glance, it wasn't quite as neatly appointed as it had looked this morning. The yard was overgrown with weeds and littered with dried leaves, while the small stoop was scattered with what looked like irregularly shaped stones. Every front-facing window was irregularly frosted with what looked like soap, behind which I could make out the ragged shape of haphazardly strung blankets in the long, slow process of falling down.
Thursday, October 11, 1995.
It feels crazy to write something like, "The house is still there," because if houses do anything, it's stay in one place, but here we are. I've driven past the blue house on my way to and from work the last couple days and still cannot take my eyes off it. The mystery of it all has deepened as well after asking a few of my co-workers at the bank if they know who lives there. Not a single one of them does. Watching them try to remember has been fascinating too, because they have total confidence in their ability to answer until it just won't come. Agatha, who's been there longer than any of us, practically flew into a rage on Wednesday, arguing that there wasn't anything between Stevenson's and the Billings house. This morning, I approached her again with a banal work-related question and worked the conversation around to how long she'd actually been living in Breckenridge. With no small amount of pride, she said her family had been in town since the beginning, helping to build the Heiser Hotel and other businesses around Tesoro Station, where Amico is now. Agatha has to be at least 60, so if she thinks the blue house can't exist, that means it's been somehow hidden for at least that long. Since I'm in the mortgage department, Carmen at the county recorder's office didn't think it was strange that I called asking about land title information for the blue house, though she sounded surprised to discover there was no corresponding documentation on the address. Carmen is a meticulous organizer, the kind of person an office basically runs around, so if she can't find the records, I'm willing to bet they're just not there. This just keeps getting more interesting. Tomorrow is Friday, and I think after work I'm gonna walk over to the blue house and take a look up close.
Sunday, October 15th, 1994.
The oddest thing happened. On Friday, I had fully intended to go take a closer look at the blue house, but never actually got there. When I pulled into the garage here just after 5:30, my plan was to shower, change into some casual clothes, then stroll over, and I did most of that, but instead of leaving the house, I must have fallen asleep on the couch. It's almost funny, I was so intent on going there that I dreamed about it instead. It was a vivid dream, too. I so clearly remember the bang of my screen door as it swung shut behind me and the chill that Minnesota gets when winter is chasing at fall's heels. There were even cars on the street. I saw Ernie Wilson bombing around in that Mustang he spent all summer restoring, and Mrs. Riley walking her Pomeranian Alto. As I passed by the Stevensons' house, I could hear, through their open windows, the clatter of a table being set for dinner. Standing in front of the blue house was completely different from driving past it. It seemed to loom above me, its second story as far away as the setting sun. There was a smell, too, a sweetness I couldn't identify drifting on the air, which produced in me a strange mix of reverie and arousal. It was most certainly coming from the house, and I knew then that even if my interest hadn't been piqued driving past, that smell would have drawn me in. I walked up the paved stone path to the front stoop where I saw the scattered stones I had first noticed Tuesday. Kneeling down to take a closer look, I saw they weren't just random rocks. They were pieces of a single, larger stone that had fallen and shattered on the ground. Gently, I picked up several pieces, turning them over in my hand and feeling a warmth radiating from each, probably because they'd been sitting in the sun all day. Every piece had a patchwork of lines lightly chiseled into one side, and I tried to arrange them back into their original configuration. When I was finished, or at least as finished as I could be given how severely some of the pieces had been pulverized by the fall, I could see it was indeed writing. I remember reading somewhere that you can't read in dreams, so I'm assuming that's why the symbols on the stone looked like straight lines, intersecting at odd angles to form nonsense arrangements. It's harder to explain what happened next. Through all of this, the sweet smell emanating from within the house grew stronger and stronger, filling my nostrils and completely intoxicating me. All I wanted to do was find where it was coming from, and, well, after that, I didn't know. It had to be coming from inside. Of that much, I was certain, and I opened the screen door to enter, swinging it open noiselessly on well-oiled hinges. There was a woman's voice speaking words I can't recall, then the dream ended and I woke up back here on the couch. There was a moment of disorientation as the sun had been starting to set when I got out of the shower, but when I woke, it looked like morning. Checking the living room clock, I was shocked to see it was 9 a.m. I'd been sleeping on the couch for more than 12 hours, something I hadn't done since college. It hadn't been a particularly restful sleep either because I was exhausted and spent most of Saturday in my actual bed, nodding in and out of sleep. This time, I didn't dream. Today, I think I'm actually going to go over to check out the Blue House for real. When I get back, I'll let you know what I found.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.